The Travel Transformation Podcast is proud to be partnered with Give the Goodness Global, an amazing global outreach project helping families in need all over Southeast Asia and beyond. Please check them out at Instagram.com/Give the Goodness Global today. And now on to the podcast episode.
Welcome to the Travel Transformation Podcast, where we talk all things travel and all things transformation, exploring the life-changing potential of solo travel, intentional travel, and location-independent working. Whether you're an aspiring digital nomad or simply wish to boost your confidence through epic travel experiences, I'm here to motivate and inspire you to go after all your wildest dreams. I'm Jessica Grace Coleman, author, certified travel coach, founder of the Travel Transformation Company, and your host for the Travel Transformation Podcast. Travel changed my life. Now let's change yours. You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Travel Transformation Podcast, where we talk all things travel and all things transformation. My name is Jessica Grace Coleman and I'm your host. And today I'm talking to mental health super advocate Ethan Nicolas. Ethan is passionate about sharing his story of horror turned to beauty to help spread awareness about trauma, mental health, child abuse, depression, addiction, fitness, wellness, healing, mindset, and much, much more. In this episode, we talk about Ethan's own transformational journey from a childhood and adulthood of abuse and trauma to his lowest point when he was contemplating suicide, to how he started healing through therapy, fitness, and being in nature, and then how he turned his pain into his purpose with his business, his motivational speaking, and his new book, Grit to Grace. I want to start sharing stories of all kinds of different transformations on this show, and Ethan's story is hugely transformative. We dive deep into his past, and I really appreciated how open and honest he was about his life and his journey. So let's get straight to the interview. Hi Ethan, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Nice. Okay, so we're going to launch right into this, because I know you do lots of cool stuff. So can you tell me about your business, Fight Me on This? What is it? Who is it for? And what made you want to start it?
Yeah, absolutely. Fight Me on This is kind of the most recent evolution of what I do here in this world as a personal trainer, a mental health advocate, a speaker, and author. It became my brand for fighting for those who can't fight for themselves. So I started this with Pity the Fool Fitness as a personal trainer. And as I got into my healing, I knew when I saw there was a need to share my story and help, try to change the world and how we view mental health. Started doing that, and it just progressed to where, I wasn't just training, I wasn't just speaking, I was doing it all at once, and, evolved into this mental health super advocate that you're talking to today.
That's amazing. And I love that term, by the way. It's so good. So I was looking at your Instagram earlier, and I will put the links in the show notes, but I highly recommend everyone to go and check it out, because I even just looked at a few videos you'd posted, and they're just so motivational and inspirational. And yeah, so definitely go and check that out. So for people who don't know anything about you, can you maybe tell me a bit about your story? I know you've been through a huge transformation yourself over the years. So can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the Cliff Notes version would be I'm a childhood trauma survivor, 10 years of abuse from parents, flowed through my life, got involved in gangs, got involved in addiction, got involved in a lot of things in life to cope. Fast forward to having a kid in my 20s, needed to be a dad, needed to figure out life and how to not be so angry. Started in therapy and trying to find answers. And when I found answers, the first answer I found was that I was going to change the world with my story. Got into sharing that, and it kind of just spiraled. It went, I never really wanted to do this stuff. I wanted to end my life when I found this calling. And it became this, I answered the call, I got more work. I answered the call, I got more work. I answered the call, I got more work. And it just kept, the more I dove into my healing, the more that I spoke up about it, the more work I would get, the more people would come to me with an issue, the more people would ask me about my experience with this, the more. And it just, counseling centers started picking up my videos off of social media to use in their sessions. I'm just a guy that has a ton of lived experience, but realizing that people don't share and think they're alone. Like I spent my whole life alone, and I needed to bring light to these places where there's so many people suffering. And, was almost 300 pounds up until COVID, really, as a personal trainer even, and needed to make some changes. And COVID afforded me the space to kind of turn my life on its head. The world stopped for everybody. And I decided that if the world was on pause, I might as well change mine. And, dropped 100 pounds, got right in the head with my own mentals, did it my own way. Went a really crazy route. I got back to playing semi-pro football, a freak athlete now. I get to speak a lot. My world has evolved into, consulting with Alberta Health Services, where I'm from, to consulting with counseling centers, with schools, speaking in them, just sharing the lived experience I have in this world to help make this place better. And it's quite the life. It's quite the career. It's quite the bit of shit to deal with, but it's what I'm doing in this world. It's what I'm great at. And it's what I'm going to keep doing until I'm done.
That's amazing. I mean, there's such a lot of stuff there in that story and that journey. So you mentioned going to therapy and you mentioned having
Mm-hmm.
a kid. So were those two things, what did one trigger the other? Was it having your child that made you
Yeah.
think that you needed to do something different? So can you
Yeah.
talk me through how you felt and then how you started the therapy? Because I think some people are just stuck and they don't know which way to go. They don't know where to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2017, found out we were pregnant with my partner from that relationship, and my daughter came along. And in that process, in the 9 months in the pregnancy, I needed to learn how to be a good human. I was a decent person, but obviously like so much anger and hatred and just undiagnosed things, untapped wells. You lock stuff away, we compartmentalize, we do all these things to survive, and then we get into a place where we got to share life with somebody and we don't know how because our life's not really ours. It's the imposters. It's this representative that we put forward into this world to survive. And so in that, my partner at the time had set some boundaries, some hard boundaries for me. I needed to grow up. I needed to learn how to live and how to love and be gentle. And so we were at church at the time, and the church that we were going to got has links to therapists, and I got linked with one. And they paid for the first few sessions to kind of help usher us into this season together and supported us. And my therapist Jay did a lot of work. He did a lot of work in the first 6 months. And I was with him from February until about October when he finally broke me and got through to the place that we need to start doing some real healing. And when we did, like it opened up a can of worms that I didn't want to open up. And in October of 2018, I didn't want to be here anymore. I made a plan to unalive myself, and in that plan, I started shaking as if I was sitting here and just would start shaking. And the only thing I could hear was write something down. So I just grabbed a pen and, wrote this piece out. And I think it was called Identity. And it was just like explaining this piece of my story, this thing that I struggle with, this thing that I was in the middle of right then. Who am I? What am I? These things. And, trying to find that person while someone has their eyes on you and other people have their eyes on you and everybody's watching in because you're on your last strike with, I'm on my last strike with my partner. I'm on my last strike with this. I'm on my last strike with that. It's trying to figure out like how people understand that I'm not trying to swing at these balls. I'm just doing the best I can to survive. And so I write this piece out and I'm sitting on it and I'm like, I'm going to go. I don't want to do this anymore. And the same shaking happens again, except for this time it's like, you got to share that. You got to post that. And I go back and forth. I'm like, no, why? Like, I'm not that person. Like, why? It doesn't matter. And, the last thing I reasoned with was that if I shared this thing and I die and someone stays because they saw it, that's a 1-for-1 trade. That's fair across the board. The universe is happy. I don't have to live. That's great. So I share it and I turn my phone off. I get ready to say my goodbyes the next day, and I turn my phone on to do that, and it's not what I thought it was. It's people saying they're sorry. It's people, you know, wishing they'd seen it before. It's people saying I had no idea. It's people saying me too. It was the weirdest thing. And I had therapy later that day, and I obviously didn't go through with my plan. And I had to go back to Jay and tell him what I experienced. And it just kept happening like that. It kept it kept happening where I didn't want to be here anymore. I'd get real dark again. I was just starting to heal, and we're digging up shit that I buried real deep. And it just kept coming on. Like when that would happen, I would have to tell another piece of my story, and that's what would keep me here. It was like the agreement I made with the universe that if you're going to keep me here, you have to use me, because if I'm sitting here with my hands tied, like I'm going to go. I don't want to do this. And it just became this thing where if I was in therapy, if I was starting to dig, I made the promise that what I uncovered, I would share. That was my deal with God, with the universe, that like, look, I don't want to do this. So if you're going to keep me here against my fucking will, should have asked if they're swearing allowed in this podcast before
You're
I
fine, you're
went
fine.
off. That like, you got to use my story then until I can't do this anymore, like until I really give up. And that was in 2018. And it really was going to therapy. And Jay, this man, like I tell him to his face all the time that I love this man. Like without Jay, like I would not. There's no fucking way. Like I'm a dude. Like I'm a, you want to hear my story, you can help me talk about like how not nice of a person I've been and how I can turn it on and how my protector is still the dude I used to be. And that's a scary motherfucker. And in that, like Jay had to sit with the monster for a long time. He had to deal with me calling him names because I didn't trust him. He had to deal with me lashing out to try to get him to send me away. He had to deal with me having episodes, like full on like mental breaks in his office, you know. Like he had to sit with me in one episode in particular. I remember the first time I really like snapped and got loud because I have a fucking volume meter that like scares the shit out of people when I'm just like here. And he touched on a nerve of something we were digging on, and I went from 0 to a million. And I scared him, and I knew it on his face, and I didn't mean to. It's not like I tried to do it. It's, you know, it was a reactionary thing. And then after he took seconds, it was cool to take himself to calm down, and watching him do that where he didn't like come back at me or register fear at me. He knew what it was, and that was the first time somebody showed me that I wasn't a monster. And that shit stuck. And I'll never in my life have another therapist. If Jay ever left, that would be it for me. Like I wouldn't go to another one, because this thing that we do with therapy is we tell people to go talk to somebody, but have you ever tried to talk to somebody? Like, have you ever sat and had a conversation with somebody you don't trust, who gives you a fucking vibe, who, you know, whatever, or you just walk in and you think they're judging you? Why would I talk to you? Like, that's why people don't do therapy. And who the fuck has the mental wherewithal to start guessing testing when you're barely hanging on as it is that somebody cares about you enough to talk to you? Like, that's the real end of what it's like to not go to therapy, because people say this person's not that, and this, and you're right, they're not. You have to find your therapist, and that takes effort, and it takes energy, and it takes time, but it's always worth it. And that's not a ploy to go to therapy. I have therapy with my partner all the time when we just get to sit and say whatever the fuck we want. I have therapy with my friends when we're working out and just sharing the shit we went through this week that we didn't want to fucking deal. Like, therapy, yes, talk therapy is a real registered and paid thing, but in my story, therapy is anything that you can get shit out in the open and not take nearly as much of it back with you. I create that space in my life as a trainer every day with my group sessions. You can come and say whatever the fuck you want, but like, we're going to also work. We're going to put energy into healthier spaces so that there's no space for that toxic shit to come back. And that is therapy.
Yeah, wow. I mean, you talked about your sessions there. So do you actually focus on the physical and the mental aspects of health during those? Is that like your main aim during that?
Yeah. So I had started this as just like a physical trainer. I was, like I said, I was 275 at my heaviest as a trainer. Like pounds, 275 pounds. For those of you, I don't know what the conversion is. So I had no idea. But you know, I did. But it was like when COVID hit, it became my mental health. This was my therapy. Was I needed to go into the gym and use it. Like I'm doing sets of 12 like I have been. I've been to school for this. It's not changing my body. It's not changing my health. So like, then what? Like, do I have to crap this to myself too? And when, you know, when COVID hit and I ended that relationship with my daughter's mom and realized like I was living life for everybody else, like I had to start loving Ethan. I had to start learning what it was like to love me, how to love me, and even the ugly, even the bad that people, you know, have told and whatever. So I went off the deep end and just went. I set a whole strict as shit schedule. My day started at 6:30 every day. I got up, rolled out of bed, did my mobility, went for my walk, listened to my audiobook. By 9 a.m., I'd done like 7 different things that were all mental health related, but it was also being related. And in how that happened, my client started to see like I was changing, like not just physically, but mentally. I was changing. Emotionally, I had more space. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, what does this look like for us? And so I completely revolutionized my business in 2020 by putting down the basic idea of what I know as a trainer and do 3x12s and 3 sets. And it became, can you hold on long enough in here to prove to yourself you are worth the effort to yourself? And we went from doing like 3 sets of 12 to how many fucking reps of this can you do with this weight? If you can do too many, you're going to go up in weight, and I'm going to scare you with shit. And I proved the concept one day by going from doing a movement called battle ropes. You shake a really heavy rope as hard as you can for as long as you can. I went from doing like 100 of those to almost 2,000 overnight, because it became a decision for me mentally that if I control the body, if this thing up here is running the show, then it should run the show. Because like my body will tell me, ow, it's uncomfortable. So the brain goes, okay, I'm done, because it agrees with the body. Instead of saying, no, stop that. That's an invisible barrier that we actually can get through. And we did. We started proving it every single day to ourselves that this thing, we had missed it. We had missed what the gym was supposed to be. It's a tool, not a band-aid. And so every day I would train with my clients. I started training with them every single day. Can they beat me at anything? Was the goal. Because in order to beat me at anything, they had to beat themselves first. If I did 50 reps on a sit up, my fucking best friend would do 60 and no one would say shit. No one would be like, ha, I did 60. He just like quickly write it on the board, see if I was looking, and then walk away. Because we're not here to help, like, be like, I'm going to fuck you up. It's, I got better. You're going to have to get better. And that's what it was. I would go and do like 75 just to piss him off. And then he'd go do 100 just to piss me off. And it was like, I swear the set before I did as many as I possibly could to beat you. But you found another level. So like, I'm going to have to dig and go find this other level. And it became me supporting him by being the best version of me I could find. And then my other client would come in and throw a wrench in it and just smoke us on something. And we'd have to turn our attention to that exercise. And it became a game where we're building community. Everybody's kind of arguing for top spot, but nobody is actually saying, I fucking hate you. It's like, oh, yeah, good. Because I didn't have the energy to do that without you. Like, it was always, I'm going to get better so you get better. And all of a sudden I look around and there's, my 50-year-old powerlifting woman put 40 kilos on her total. We never did a real strength phase. I lost 100 pounds. Stuart, my best friend, can sit up straight now, even though he was hunched over like this with back problems. Like, all of this shit physically changed us. Yeah, but it became mentally. If you can prove to yourself that you are far greater than you've ever thought you were every time you come to my gym, because that's what was happening, it becomes an intrinsic belief that you have been believing some shit that you don't need to believe. So what other shit are people saying to you that you're wearing that doesn't belong to you? It becomes this self-efficacy of knowing who you are. You learn it in the gym because you prove it to you. I don't matter. I don't. It's not you versus me. It's you versus you. But in order to keep you on track, there's a little bit of you versus me because I got my own me versus me over here. And that's what this became. Like, this became using the gym as a catalyst to blend mind, body, and spirit in wellness.
I love that so much. I mean, it's so applicable to every area of your life as well. Once you start thinking about it, like work, career, whatever you're trying to achieve, you can apply that and, just keep going at it. Like you say, if you stop actually thinking that you can't do it, you find out you can do double the amount or triple the amount or whatever it is.
Blown away by like in my own body, there's still shit that I'm like, I cannot believe I can do that. But seeing it in other people, seeing those holy crap moments. And it starts with, like, some people haven't been able to do a sit-up. Some people haven't been able to get out of a chair without like throwing themselves into it. Some people haven't been able to get out of bed without having to like toss around. And this has so much less to do with weight, but like physical ability to feel and control your body comes from being mentally healthy. It's not that you can't feel it, is that you just don't know what it feels like. And that's a part of like understanding ourselves as a person. It's so wild to watch it happen, but it's cool to see real time when people like click that thing where they go, oh, in the corner, and you watch them. They've just done something they weren't sure they could do, like someone doing their first push-up or their first pull-up or their first handstand. All these things we see everybody else. It was like, holy shit, some of these people haven't done it since they were a kid. Like, I teach people how to play because in retrospect, we're just adults playing. We're just in a big ass gym having a time with other adults, learning how to play, channeling that inner child thing of like, oh, I'm better than you. What, like, it's so beautiful in here because it's just people can leave their day at the door or they can come and work on their day on the bar. There is no in between. This is whatever you need it to be. As long as you come in here and understand that in here, once your family, like, you can fuck off for 6 months, but people are going to annoy you. They're going to check on you. This group runs itself when I'm not here, when I've got to go away for work. Like, this community understands that if they keep going, if they keep working on their stuff together, it's going to get bigger. There's going to be more people that see it, and there's going to be more people that realize, like, we're better together. We do this thing and everything together.
I love that. So many people think of exercise as like a chore, like something they have to get through, but you're saying use it as a tool to actually transform yourself. And I talk about using travel as a tool to transform yourself. And it's all about, going in there with an intention to transform yourself using this thing instead of just thinking like, oh, I've got to do like 30 minutes today and I just don't want to do it, like actually be in the moment and have an intention of, being your best self and achieving things you didn't think possible and all that kind of great stuff that I love talking about. So I love that. You have kind of mentioned this already, but you say that healing, growth, and transformation come from two things: mindset and community. So you kind of mentioned that a little bit, but I'd love to hear more about this because, again, I say when I talk about travel and transformation, I always say it's about the mindset you have going into it and about the people you meet as well. So can you tell me a bit about why you think mindset and community in particular is so important here?
Yeah, I think that I know that mindset is the number one thing. Like the whole point of the way that we run our gym here is learning how to reprogram and rewire the brain into, not taking societal ideation and societal norms and making it a part of your fibers being like, why do we let people who we haven't seen in years like run the show in here? Like imposter syndrome. We would never talk to ourselves like that. Right. Like nobody in here would talk to a kid like that. Nobody would talk to any. So why are you talking to you like that? You don't. That's somebody else said it. Somebody else killed something and you came in here and it now sounds like your voice because it's been eating at your system for so long, but that's not you. You get to dictate what you let register and land in here. Mindset itself is hard to kind of grasp that you have that kind of control unless you do it real time. And that's why we do the gym, because in the simplest form, what's one more set? One more rep. If I've got to get out of this chair one more time, what's one more? If I didn't think I could do 12, but I just did 13, then that should raise questions on, have I actually been doing what I said I've been doing? Or have I been kind of living in this imposter state of that was enough, or you can't do more, or whatever that is? If mindset is key to winning, then once you get the understanding of who you are, you kind of need to be around people that get that. We are communal creatures as human beings. Those things don't go, they're not separate. They actually are together. When you start to learn that you want other people to learn the same thing. In community, I don't have to tell you that I can do cool shit when I'm on the floor next to you doing the exact same thing you are, grunting and grinding and pushing my body as far as I can push it so that you will follow suit. That's community and that's mindset working real time to better both people. We may not talk about it, we may not go forward in it, but the entire base of getting better as a community comes from getting better as the individual in your mindset.
Mm, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Sorry for the interruption, but I just have to tell you about Jessica Grace Coleman's new book, Intentional Travel Transformation. Boost your confidence, conquer your fears, and finally become the person you've always wanted to be, which is out now. This book is part memoir, part practical guide to help you transform yourself and your life through travel. Learn about Jessica's own tale of travel transformation, read unique transformation stories from the travel buddies she's met on the road, and make your way through her travel transformation framework, a method you can follow to create your very own bespoke travel transformation strategy. Your roadmap you can use to incorporate intentional travel into all your future trips. So, have you packed your bags yet? Because it's time to flip the script on your life and transform through travel. Get Intentional Travel Transformation now from Amazon or head to www.traveltransformationcoach.com/books for more info. And now let's get back to the Travel Transformation Podcast.
Talking about healing, I know that some of your healing has come from spending time in the mountains and unplugging, which I love. I'm a huge mountain fan. So can you tell me more about this, especially because I think this is a prime example of how you don't have to travel halfway around the world to benefit from all the amazing things this planet has to offer?
Yeah. It's, ever since I was a kid, my life stories you've heard is, I started as a kid. And the one thing I can always remember was having relatives somewhere in Kelowna and camping in the mountains. It was the only time away from home, and home was not a fun place to be. And yes, obviously the trauma comes with you and the person that was abusing you comes with you on those family trips, but became the one place where, like, if I wasn't immediately in the presence of these people, it didn't matter anymore. I was just with my brother in the woods. I was just with my uncle in the woods. We're just having fun and playing. It's the only time that I really got to like play unabated. And so, in my adult life, as I love being in BC, love going through the mountains here in Canada, we have the Rocky Mountains. And you have to drive through them to get to the province over. There's tons of places to stop, like Canmore, Banff, and Jasper. Beautiful mountain, beautiful lakes, beautiful everything. And just, there's something about being in nature. A lot of us that have healed, a lot of us that have done the work, a lot of us that have traveled know that mountains and water, we talk about hippies will tell you all the time, like that's the most peaceful place. And it really, for me, is hearing water, seeing something so magnificent that it's almost outside my scope of understanding. Like, it's big. That's really large. It's up there. That's a far climb. I'm just a little dot, and it gives me perspective in this thing called life a lot of the time. But being in fresh air and being able to breathe, it's mountains, so we don't have a lot of connection if you get outside the cities. It's nice as someone who's on his phone 23 hours a day to not be able to. If I'm on my phone, I'm taking pictures. I'm mushroom hunting. I'm finding cool things in the trees. I might even climb a tree, who knows, which would depend. Is still being the same person that I am, at work, but letting him put work down and to go play. And that's my time for me. I get to learn about me. That's where I get to do my deep dives. That's where I get to decompress from some of the shit. As an advocate, like, it's not just me telling my story. Like, people have access to me 24/7 right now. People can call me. I'm a, whatever you want, crisis intervention. I don't really call it intervention. I hold space for people all the time to come and like dump their shit, because I've seen it all. I've seen the most horrific horror that we've seen in this world in my lifetime. And that gives me the ability to hold space for a lot of people. So it's where I go to put that stuff down. It's where I go to give respect to other people's stories and not make them mine. So for me, traveling is about not just learning about me, but really learning how to just put stuff down, reminding myself that I have to, because I work. We're working right now. When I leave this, I'm going right into another meeting at work, and then I got another meeting into work. And if I'm traveling, I'm working. And it's the only place I go where I warn people, like, you probably will not hear from me till I'm back. And that's a learned lesson. You don't have to travel around the world to get some peace and to learn some shit. I've learned far more about myself and my community just being away in the mountains. They're 3 hours from here on the high side. That's it.
Beautiful. And yeah, I'm exactly the same around nature, mountains, water in particular, like you said. It's
Mm-hmm.
something about it, something magical about that.
Water, 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 water.
So I just want to go back to, you mentioned when you were at your lowest point and you wrote that piece and you put it online and you were like, this isn't me. I'm not the kind of person who does this. And now obviously you do that all the time. Like, that is what you do. And you do motivational speaking, and you do all these amazing things. So did you ever do anything like this before, or is it a completely different thing? And how did you feel when you started doing things like motivational speaking? Was it uncomfortable for you, or were you, how did that go?
Yeah, it was definitely uncomfortable. It really was never a thing that I ever wanted to do. Imposter syndrome, life of being bullied, whatever, before I became the bully. It was genuinely, public speaking terrifies me. I played the drums a little bit, so I was on stage, from time to time, but always behind a kit, always in my own world, never the center of attention. And I still shake, I still get nervous. It was never on my radar to be this person. I wanted to die. In 2019, I went through with my plan, and thankfully I was, in a place where people were able to save me and, get me to the hospital in time, and whatever happened after that. But I never wanted to do it. It was the deal I made with the universe. In my lifetime, I've died legally, like, had to be brought back. I got really sick and they didn't give me the right drugs when I got there. They weren't right antibiotics, and my throat closed over. I wound up, suffocating myself. I've been in the hospital most of my life with random sicknesses undisclosed, thanks to trauma. Now that I've done my own research and, talked to doctors and, I'm a survivor of domestic abuse as an adult. I'm a survivor of sexual assault as an adult. I live a real fascinating horror story, and, I'm never really out of it. This is what I will get to do in this world until it takes me off this planet. So no, I'm still not comfortable. I'm just on a mission. And for me, that's the agreement. I don't want to die right now. I still obviously have highs and lows. I'm in a great relationship. I've got a business. I've got, lots of things going for me, lots of good work to do yet. I've got a book coming out in a month and change, and there's a lot to go on, but this work remains the same level of ugly as it was when my parent decided to do what they did when I was 5 years old up until I was 15. Like, this hasn't changed for me. I haven't realized what I was supposed to do in this world until I was in my, adult life. But I look back on how many times I told people that I can take it. Now I can take the weight of the world on my shoulders. I can take the ugly. I can take the violence. I can take bleeding for people. I can take the pain. I've always been that person. Since I was a kid, I've hated injustice. I've hated when shit wasn't fair. As a teen, I became, a hired hand that would hurt people, that hurt people. I wanted to kill everybody. I wanted the world to burn to the ground because I was tired of living in hell. So I figured I might as well take people with me that deserve to go. And I started hurting people that were hurting people like I'd been hurt. I've been through and continue to go through the ugliest of uglies. And it's so I can show people that it's possible. I'm in the business of showing people it's possible. I choose to go back to the darkness day in and day out, holding the lantern, because I spent my entire life there with nobody holding one for me. In this world, in this lifetime, I'm going to change this world. Like, It needs to change. People need to know they're not alone. People need to know that they can. I'm sick of hearing people say they can't or believe they can't just because one asshole took it from them when they were a kid. Like that, the world is so much better over here believing in yourself. The world is so much lighter over here when you know that you can make a dent. And even if that means having a conversation with somebody you walk by on the street, changes the world of that person. So how are you not changing the world? Like, it doesn't have to be this grandiose thing that you see me doing, this overarching sharing of horrors. It could be a fucking hello when somebody didn't expect to be talked to today. It can be a wave. It can be a coffee bot. It can be a passing compliment. It's so easy to be a decent human, and we think it's got to be grandiose in nature. It doesn't. It's simple, but we forget that. So here I am reminding people that it doesn't have to be this thing. It can be a, hey, thought about you yesterday. Hope you're doing okay. It's that simple.
I love that. And I think a lot of people know this, but like, we need to remind ourselves that it can be that simple. It can be as simple as picking up the phone and calling someone instead of just messaging them or replying to a message or whatever. And yeah, that could save someone's life, even if it just brightens their day. Like, that's a good outcome.
It could save someone's life by 4 degrees of separation. You have no, like, the coolest thing that I hear is like when people, because I know enough people in different walks of life, that shit gets back to me sometimes. Like, yeah, I saw you speak, and I was like, oh shit, I know you're there. Like, I wasn't, but they were there who shared it, and they saw it. I'm like, 1, 2, 3, and a quarter, and that was like 6 weeks ago. Wow, like that. I never knew. I don't know half the people that my shit reaches. You never know how far that ripple goes. You just genuinely never do, but you did the ripple, and that should be good enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. You never know who's listening, who you're impacting, like you say, who's sharing what they've heard. Sometimes you feel like you're talking to no one, but you could be impacting like hundreds of people. You just have no clue. So definitely just do it anyway. You mentioned there you've got a book coming out. So congratulations, because as a writer myself, I know that is no small feat. So can you tell me a bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. In 2020, right after George Floyd was murdered in America, I spoke at a rally and was challenged to write a book. There is a company out here that put out a BIPOC submission contest, but when I found out we only had 30 days to write it, I didn't want to do it, so I wound up powering through it in like 23 days and got this book, got it submitted. Obviously didn't go, sat on it. You know how it happens. Imposter syndrome is kind of funny that way. And now it's just time. In the last 3 years of my life, I've done some spectacular shit, like losing 100 pounds, fixing my knee without surgery, tons of wild stuff that I still have to figure out how to write about. But, so much has happened that it's just time. It needs to come out now. So October 1st is the official release date. We'll do a reading here in Edmonton and a signing. And yeah, the ebook will be out in the next 10 days or so that people can start getting out there. But yeah, we're going to do a full launch. It's just the first part of my story, the first 28 years of how I got to writing the book, and then I'll start on book 2.
Nice. And that's called Grit to Grace, is that right?
Grit to Grace, yeah. Grit to Grace, the story of surviving childhood trauma, lifetime of adversity, and mental health battles.
Right. And by the time this podcast comes out, you said the ebook's coming out soon?
Yeah, in the next 10 days or so, and then the hard copies and the pre-sale and everything will be October 1st.
Okay, so when this comes out, the ebook will be out. So make sure everyone goes and checks that out. Amazing. And I have 2 last quick questions. First of all, where can people find and follow you online? And is there anything else you want to mention or any other message specifically you want to get across before we go?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on social medias, all of them. Ethan Nicolas. If you don't know that, it's Fight Me on This on most things. Yeah, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the places. And what was question number 2?
Is there any last message you want to get across before we go?
Last message. At the end of the day, the last message. It's always different. Something along the lines of you can, but genuinely, at the end of the day, the only person that you're with 100% of the time is yourself. If that's the only person that's being kind to you, you might as fucking well be kind to yourself. There's nobody else that can do it. There's nobody else that may do it. There are plenty of people that will. But if you aren't kind to you first, how the fuck are you supposed to know what kindness looks like from anybody else? Work on you. Everything else falls into place. Of that, I can fucking promise. But you might as well be kind to yourself to start.
I love that. And it's so hard to do sometimes, but yeah, I definitely agree with that. So thank you for that. And yeah, thank you for coming on. It's been really great talking to you. And thank you for being so open and honest about your journey as well. I think this is going to help a lot of people. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Thank you for listening to the Travel Transformation Podcast with me, Jessica Grace Coleman. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could please subscribe, rate and review, and spread the word, because it's my mission to help as many people as possible to flip the script on their lives and transform through travel. And remember, life is short, so let's make sure it's nothing short of amazing. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.